Star Trek The Next Generation on Blu-ray, episode Conspiracy. This is the second to last episode in season 1, and this is day, 27 of 30 of my 30 days of Star Trek reviews. So let's do this. Also, I'm very, very sunburned, so you're just going to have to deal with it. Maybe turn off the screen or look away, or maybe just cover up my face. But I didn't listen to my wife and wear sunscreen. So, yeah. Also, this episode it's like a horror intrigue kind of plot device one. And there is, in this episode, one of the most horrendous, scary, gory, monstery effects out of any Star Trek The Next Generation. Okay, so look at the stars that are stretched while they're flying. I asked my wife what she thought about that, and we talked about how they're flying faster than light, multiple factors faster than light. Stop looking at my sunburned face. And she wondered if when you do fly that fast, if the color spectrum of a star would actually kind of break apart and you would see the separate colors like that. And so she's like, did they do that just because it looks pretty? Or was the person making the show like, yes, we're going to make these stars that are flying past actually break apart and be separate colors? I don't know, but it's really pretty and colorful in space. Okay, speaking of this scene, I'm going to hold to my position that these short skirt girls just cruising around the ship or pushing buttons in the back are totally just set dressings in this show, because all the main characters are in pants. Troy wears a little dress, little skirt sometimes, but they're cruising around the ship carrying these iPads, going up and down elevators, walking up and down the stairs, walking up the little ramp things with these boots are made for walking, and they seriously just seem like set dressing. It's almost like there was like a pre-YouTube TV algorithm back in the day where they're like, okay, if you can show some legs in the first 30 seconds, your ratings go up. It's proven. So anyway, that's what I think. You can argue with me if you will, but that seems pretty obvious. That's what they're there for. So in addition to some super creepy AF alien stuff, this episode, interestingly, has a lot of Data becoming more human moments, or trying to be more human. Very specific Data character moments. And here is Data trying to laugh after a joke from Geordi.
Hysterical, in fact.
Oh. He just goes back to work.
What is our ETA
So good.
Pacific, Mr. Lo-
So Picard has had a sneaky message from his old buddy about a conspiracy at the highest levels of Starfleet. And so he's going to beam down and have a secret meeting in a scary mine shaft. But Riker questions him going alone, and look how he answers.
Alone, Captain? Alone, number one.
Goodness, Picard. He's so yelly. He could just say alone. He's going to have to yell at him because he's doing secret stuff. One thing I notice about the 24th century is they don't have any cables running all over the place. They have very neat desks. So Picard has just had his super secret meeting with his old buddy in the scary mine shaft. But look in his office. Look what ship is back. Look what he changed out. Does he just have like a little closet of Star Trek models and he switches them out? Maybe. I mean, he has to. Someone's switching them out. They're like little decorations. Look at what's in his office now.
Rest in peace. Walker Keel.
Look, he's talking about Jack Crusher and Walker Keel. And what is that? The Stargazer. In a weird tan color. I mean, it's always a tan color. It's just, why is it this weird tan color? So here's another really good Data moment where Picard gives him a super special secret Data assignment. And look at Data's face. Like, you can see his mouth. Just watch the corner of his mouth, but also his eyes. You can see that it's like he's really happy and flattered to have gotten this assignment from the captain. Listen to this.
I have an assignment for you, one specifically suited to your talents.
See that? He has a little smile.
Computer.
So Data is about to do another really human thing and be really proud of himself, and then be told to stop talking by the computer. But while he's looking at these things and these little letters and correspondence are going by, like, you can actually read these things. And on VHS before, like, there's no way you'd be able to resolve this detail. So I just talked to my wife about how this is filmed on 35 millimeter and actually picked up all this detail, which is really cool that you can see now. But listen to Data do a superhuman thing.
Quite extraordinary, in fact.
Direction unclear. Please repeat request.
That was not a request. I was simply talking to myself.
He gets a little smile.
A human idiot.
Yeah, and then he goes on and explains talking to yourself over and over and over and over to the computer until the computer's like, I got it. Like, let's move on. It's like, oh gosh, everyone tells him to shut up. Okay, a cool part about this episode is a good old Enterprise investigating a problem and a threat to Earth episode from throughout all of Star Trek. These are the good ones. The Enterprise trying to save Earth, and this is exactly what's going on. These guys are digging into a conspiracy theory, and I just like watching the three of them kind of talk it out.
There's insufficient data to make such an assessment, sir.
Are you suggesting that we warp over to Starfleet headquarters and demand to know what's going on?
Which is on Earth.
Why not?
Nice.
Yes, why not? We're talking about a threat to the entire future of the Federation. I don't think any of us can rest easy until we've been to the source.
Love it. One of the things I like about all this conspiracy stuff is that the way to detect somebody who is, I don't know, infected, parasitically imbibed, I don't know. The way to detect them is that they don't have memories of stuff that you have memories of, so that you can try and ask them like about old times, and they'll try and bluff their way through it, and you'll know it's them.
Remember what you told me back at Rover 7 about the threat that you perceived to the very fabric of the Federation?
Is that why you're here, because of what I said?
It's one of the reasons, yes.
But Jean-Luc, you took me far too literally. I was only referring to the problems involved in assimilating new races into the Federation.
Liar.
It's an ongoing, tumultuous process which can cause stress and strain on every...
So then it plays really intense music, and Picard gets a face. And anyway, he realizes that this admiral does not remember their prior conversation. So the crazy thing is that this admiral showed up being like, hey, there's a conspiracy going on. And then now that he's seeing him again, he's now compromised. And so he's realizing that he's not someone he can rely on anymore. Okay, so a very interesting, very integral plot conversation has been happening. But here's what I noticed. Look at this guy. Leg day. It's leg day every day for a man skirt guy. Do you see those beefy hammy legs? My goodness, you could feed half the ship if they had to turn to cannibalism. So Picard and Riker just had this super intense conversation in the transporter room where they're like, the Admiral's not the Admiral, and you're going to have to come down there with force, and we got to tell Beverly Crusher to make up a lie to make the Admiral go get a physical. And it's just like, wow, this is like a really intense conversation. And then Picard gets on the transporter pad and he's like, energized, and like looks over at some dude, and it's like, they were having this like super top secret conversation in front of just like Joe non-O'Brien transporter guy. Like, you can't trust that guy. He's probably gonna die in the next episode. Well, I guess then it wouldn't matter to tell him secrets. Okay, spoiler alert. Even though this guy is totally being taken over by a scary little stop animation claymation creature, this thing right after Picard beams in is another reason why I feel like this show is establishing itself as an heir to the original series. And this time watching through, that's one thing I've been watching for, is how this show would be perceived as a fan of the original series. So I'm a fan of the original series, but I saw this show first, and then I went back and saw the original series, and then I've seen this show. So I'm trying to watch it through the eyes of like a 1988 person who was a huge fan of the series that's being really skeptical. And scenes like this little exchange right here, that they do it without any fanfare, I think gain points for the original series fans. Watch the Vulcan guy.
Welcome home, Captain Picard. Thank you. My first officer will be joining us shortly.
You see that? So it was no...
Yes, I'm sure he will.
Pause. There's no fanfare. They're not like, look, Vulcans, they do the thing. They just, it was no big deal. It's kind of, this is going to be a weird analogy, but it's kind of like the difference between Saving Private Ryan and Enemy at the Gates when it comes to the violence. So what I'm saying is that this is just observing things happening that are very natural, that are a part of the world, and they're moving on. They're not like focusing on it. Just like in Saving Private Ryan, there's a ton of violence happening and the camera's kind of going by it and you might happen to see some of it, versus something like Enemy at the Gates where the violence happens and the camera's like, ooh, look how gross. Ooh, look at this gross violence. We're trying to be like Saving Private Ryan. And it's like, nah, that didn't work. So what I'm saying is that Saving Private Ryan and this movie succeed very well in very casually showing important stuff. Not that a live long and prosper hand signal is like gore, but does that make any sense? I don't know. I like that scene. Boop. Okay, so in summation, the comparison between Saving Private Ryan and Enemy at the Gates. So what I'm saying is that Next Generation is very tactfully including established Star Trek lore, and it's very tasteful, as opposed to if they did it like how Enemy at the Gates does the violence versus Saving Private Ryan. Star Trek would be like, hey, look, Vulcans do this thing, and it would just be right in your face, and it would be like, original series fans, kind of like in that other episode where the Galileo, like a model of the Galileo shuttle, was in the background of somebody's room. They weren't like, hey, this is the ship that was on Kirk's ship. It's just in the background very naturally. I do like the movie Enemy at the Gates. I just think that the violence is more tastefully done in Saving Private Ryan. So this made me think of that. Thank you for your patience. All right, this fight scene between Riker and the Admiral, because the Admiral's parasite possessed, alien possessed or whatever. I don't know if this is quite on the Gorn fight level from the original series where Kirk fights that big slow lizard monster, but it's pretty cheesy. Look at all these ninja kicks back and forth. Like super obvious stunt doubles. Leaps over the table, does his own kick. Super obvious stunt doubles. Riker does his blue steel as he jumps over the table. Anyway, that is a great fight, and there are some super obvious stunt doubles in there, and it's so cheesy. And then Worf comes in and does the double fist Kirk attack, and it's great. But Beverly wins the day on how she comes in attacking. All right, look at her go. Shoot that Admiral, Beverly. Yeah, that's called shooting until the threat stops. Not just double tap. That was like quadruple tap. You just keep going until that threat, or she just keeps going until the threat stops. She did so good with that cool tiny little phaser. Good job, Beverly. Okay, this is one of the aspects that makes it kind of a horror, gross out type episode. But the people that have the alien inside of them are eating bowls of mealworms. Ew. But my wife pointed this out. Riker's face as he's about to eat these looks like he's actually grossed out. There we go. Okay, he's playing with them. Lifts it up. Look at his mouth. Oh, he grimaced. You can see his face. But I love it. He just starts this like shootout in Federation headquarters. It's like people start blasting each other. Give them time to dodge. And then you're gonna shoot him right in the butt. Right? There we go. Butt shot. Listen to these yucky sound effects and look at this awesome, basically like claymation creature work here. Oh, it's so cute. So it's crawling in inside his mouth because I guess there's the big scary queen alien bug inside of him. But I always love finding the exact frame of a shot that matches up with a card. Right there, look at that. Alien parasites. Unless integrity greater than 32, away team infected. They beam back and opponent immediately controls ship until crew stopped. And crew until stopped, then turn resumes. So in the game, that actually works just like this here, where it causes an inconvenience, it takes control of stuff, and then eventually you stop it and move on. But I like that there's a way to just get around it. If your away team has a lot of integrity, then they're not going to get got by these parasites. So it's kind of interesting. All right, you might be offended by this, but I actually really don't like the movie Pulp Fiction. But is this a Pulp Fiction shot? I mean, Pulp Fiction was way after this. I can't imagine Pulp Fiction was inspired by this scene. Just where they both look at each other and then they both put their guns up. Okay, look at this. All right, so like I said at the beginning, this episode has some of the grossest, scariest, graphicest stuff of any Star Trek before all the fake Star Trek started coming out. But like of all Star Trek Next Generation, original series, I think Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise, this to me is like at the very peak of graphicness. I'm not going to show it because this isn't an exhibition channel. Thank you very much. But they just sit here blasting him and blasting him and blasting him and blasting him with their phasers. And then it basically turns into like a Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of a moment at the end where you get like layers peeling off. And then there's a creature inside and they shoot the creature. It's like this adorable little alien puppet's like, and then they shoot that thing. And then there's a whole pile of like fake little dead puppets all over the ground. Or not puppets, but little like alien things all over the ground. But the aftermath of his body is like super graphic and atrocious. And I love that stuff in like the movie The Thing. But in Star Trek, I almost like don't want it in here as much because I want it to kind of stay where it's at. But yeah, it's pretty crazy graphic on this part. Okay, this has been day 27 of 30 of my 30 days of Star Trek review that are taking a lot longer than 30 days. And after this episode, there's one more episode called The Neutral Zone, and that finishes season 1 of Star Trek The Next Generation. And so that leaves 2 more days left for my 30 days. And so I'm going to do the original series episode Space Seed, followed by the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray review of The Wrath of Khan Star Trek 2. So that will complete my 30 days of Star Trek reviews. So thank you very much for watching. I think this is an awesome episode. Kind of gross. I'm not going to show this one to my kids. But I really, really like it. It has great horror stuff and intrigue and sneaky things and emotions. And you learn more history about the world. And it's a really, really good episode. And I think they're trying to bust these kind of episodes out right at the end to be like, hey, look, we did it. Come back for season 2. Beverly. So I'll see you on the next one. Bye.